In the late 90s, Pokemania was running wild, and 90s kids had plenty of choice between the anime, the games, the TCG, but there was a little part of Pokemania that I feel is slightly overlooked, or somewhat forgotten. Tomy's MonColle range, otherwise known as battle figures. Now, it wasn't uncommon to see Pokemon figures on the shelf. We had plenty. We had Token Pikachus, we had Burger King things, we had plushes, we had bouncy balls with Pokemon inside, but this is the battle figure range in which you would get 1 or 2 Pokemon, or sometimes 3, in a little blister pack, and you know what? I'm going to look at my own personal battle figure collection and share them with you. These are what I had when I was a child. Do they still hold up? Let's find out, shall we? First up, we have Squirtle, who is looking absolutely adorable. As you can tell, all of the key features are here. He's got a little bit of discoloration on his little tail, but overall he's really nice. I know that on mine the tail has started to come apart, but hey, these things, well, they don't last very well in terms of just kind of keeping their quality. Nearly every single one of these has got little blemishes or scuffs or what have you from where they've been played with and kept over the years. One of the key things about these figures is that they were kept in these Pokeballs, which, yeah, let's face it, they weren't the best. They were just bits of plastic in which you put your little Pokemon in, and then obviously they just flopped around and ended up getting a little bit damaged just by sitting in there. Oh, the things we had as a child that probably were damaging. Squirtle is really nice though, because he does have a little kind of darker colour to what you would expect. He's quite dark in terms of his design. I always think of Squirtle as quite light coloured, but yeah, a nice little dark blue. Next up we have Wartortle, who is actually a lighter colour than Squirtle. Squirtle is a lot darker, and yeah, it's quite funny that Wartortle is so light. Again, a lot of blemishes, especially on the tail, is just kind of where everything kind of ends up getting a bit scuffed. But you know what? I'm really nice at how nice he looks. Next up is Blastoise, and this is where I had some issues with this line, in that, you know what, the little small guys and even the mid-evos, they look quite nice and like compact because they are small, cute little guys. Blastoise is the first one in which he's very chunky and feels a lot smaller than he should be. Of course, these things are just kind of in one particular scale at the time, so you didn't get necessarily bigger for bigger evolutions. But it does make them all that little bit more kind of, I don't know, uniform and nice in some ways. But he's a really nice release and has the same colour as Squirtle. In fact, no, he doesn't. In fact, all 3 of these are all different colours. Yeah, Squirtle's colouring ends up changing pretty much every single time he evolves. So this came in a free pack. I don't have the little Game Boy Blaster anymore, or at least I couldn't find it. But yeah, you would get a free pack of Squirtle, Wartortle and Blastoise all in one. Next up we have Mewtwo, and you know what? For a Mewtwo, I'm not a huge fan of this. Now, over time there has been a little bit of discoloration, but I don't know, it just doesn't look right. He looks kind of like weird. Obviously the whole neck thing is kind of not there. He's just got a very, very swollen looking neck, and of course he's got his little tail, which is very similar to Mew. And the same was with Chansey. All of these ones where they're kind of like a pinky colour ended up just coming out white with pink bits, which, yeah, doesn't really work for me. The same with Mew, but not so much. Mew is very much a pink Pokemon, but here they kind of tried to have it as kind of like white with pinkish, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I think the biggest problem really is that these two literally got produced in Japan a long time before the movie came out, and a long time before we had a lot of the colourings that we now have. So yeah, there is a little bit of a difference. Now, in the UK and I'm assuming the US, to get these you had to buy a 5-pack. That's right, you had to buy a 5-pack with a multitude of different Pokemon. So yeah, that's pretty much how I've got these. I don't have all of them from the 5-pack, but yeah, you had to buy a Mewtwo pack and a Mew pack, and you got a bunch of other Pokemon, random Pokemon, not necessarily ones that you were going to fill your little collection with, or they're just kind of like, oh, here's a random Staryu, or a random Gyarados, or a random Growlithe. Don't get Arcanine though, you won't get Arcanine for a few more years. But yeah, they're nice enough, but I'm not a huge fan of these guys. Next up is probably one of my favourite releases, and that's Staryu. I think this came with the Mewtwo 5-pack, or the Mew 5-pack. I know that you got Starmie with Misty, so you didn't get them both together. But yeah, it's a really nice release, and this is one that I think over the time and over years has actually held up in terms of its quality. Because, yeah, I mean, it's Staryu. I mean, the little edges are a little bit scuffed, but overall, he's came out really nice. I like the idea that, obviously, for Pokemon that wouldn't stand up otherwise, you get a little base, and this is a little blue base, so for water. Now, it doesn't work with all of them. I've seen pictures of, like, the stuff like the Coffin and the Bellsprout and the Ghastly, and they just don't look too right. But this one, and I imagine Starmie, looks incredibly nice, in my opinion. We also have Seal. Now, I don't ever remember getting Dugong, so I believe this Seal again came with one of these 5-packs, and yeah, he looks just nice. It's one of those ones, it's like, Seal was never my favourite, but I always appreciated how his design looked, and he just looks really nice. Again, this is another one where he's, in the anime, his colour is a little bit more whiter, so they went more with kind of like a light bluish colour. This is a colour I would expect to see on Squirtle, if I'm perfectly honest, but yeah, he's a really nice one, and this one is another one where I think the kind of the quality, he hasn't really been scuffed up or anything like that. He's still looking rather nice. Next up is another one that we got as a free pack, and that pack was Doduo, Dodrio, and you guessed it, Farfetch'd. Now, this was at the time when I was really getting into this series, and I was buying as many as I could. So I ended up picking up a free pack of Farfetch'd, Doduo, and Dodrio, and I think the idea was I wanted all 151, not knowing that I would never ever be able to get 151, simply just for the fact that half of them didn't release. But you know what, this is a really nice set, and I mean, these aren't necessarily the most favourite of Pokemon, but you know what, they are Pokemon that just look incredibly cool, and I think this is one of the strong points of the line, is that they made a lot of really nice figures for a lot of Pokemon that probably will never ever get another figure. I don't think I've ever seen another Doduo or Dodrio figure at all, but you know what, these guys are really nice. I love the design, and they just look so unique and cool. And you know what, Farfetch'd is the same as well. I mean, I know he's got a little bit more scuffs, but he just looks so cool. I just like the design for him. He just looks like a cool duck with a leak. Here is another free pack that I got, and it's one that just makes sense, and that was Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite. Now, for a long time, I don't know why, I thought the Dragonite came with like the Mewtwo or the Mew set, but no, it looks like I think I bought them as a free pack. At least that's what I'm remembering them as. But yeah, these two look really nice. If I'm honest, the Dratini and Dragonair look at that a little bit nicer, and I think it just comes again with the whole fact that some of these big, massive Pokemon don't really look quite as good when they're shrunken down. He still looks really nice. He's a really nice quality, and it's another one where I think he hasn't really had any blemishes or any issues over the time. But yeah, overall, it is a really, really nice trio. I am a huge fan of these ones, and I'm so glad that this trio, and I think the Doduo trio, has remained in my collection, because there's another one coming up that I've got one of. Poliwag. Yeah. I mean, I like Poliwag. I know for a fact I had the trio, because I remember somebody asking me, why are you buying Poliwag, Poliwhirl, and Poliwrath? And I was just like, you know what? The designs look really cool. And this release, from my memory, it looked absolutely awesome. I loved the fact that they just came out, and I think this was one of the very early sets as well. I remember this being like before you got like a lot of the more random, more obscure ones, and it was kind of like, I know Poliwag was kind of like one of the ones that they really pushed at the very start of Pokemania, but Poliwag and Poliwrath doesn't get quite as much love, but they do still look really nice. I love the swirl. I wish I had the other two. I feel like I've got another bag full of more of these guys, because as you will see, I've got some random one-offs. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this one. It's a lovely design, it's a lovely colour, and that swirl just blew my mind when I was a kid. So here we have a trio of guys where I've obviously bought the 2-pack and just never found the rest of them. I know I've seen Sandshrew at some point recently in my bucket of random anime figures. But yeah, I mean, Sandslash came with Sandshrew, both of the rats came themselves, and Jolteon came with Vaporeon. And you know what? Jolteon may be one of my favourite releases, because that just looks so cool. He just looks so spiky and happy about it. I don't know, it just looks so nice. I remember you couldn't get Eevee. I think Eevee later was released with Flareon. But yeah, it's just a nice release. I love Raticate as well. It's like, it's so nice that you could just get just about any Pokemon that you were a fan of, unless you were a fan of Golbat or Voltorb. And you got a really nice figure of it. It was just such nice back in the day of when you would get figures, and it would used to be like 2 or 3 of the popular ones, then a random character. Sandslash as well just looks so cool, and I'm really a fan of how it's just nice to see how nice a lot of these designs were. Just a really nice figure. So the last one for 151 is this Charizard, and you know what? I think unless Blastoise, he just looks a little bit okay. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the fact that I don't have the other 2 for scale. I did have the other 2. Obviously, I would have bought the 3-pack. But yeah, Charizard just looks nice. Except the fact that his neck is just kind of like up, and then his head is kind of attached to his neck. Yeah, it's a bit of the kind of the way they're molded and sculpted. But you know what? He still looks really cool. In fact, he probably looks cooler flying than he does actually just being down like this, where you can just see his head and not his face. Yeah. Now, another one that came in a 5-pack but wasn't 151 is Togepi, which makes sense. Obviously, Togepi was like a huge Pokemon, like Misty's kind of mascot character for at that time. But yeah, it was a really nice release of getting Togepi. I think it came from the Mewtwo or the Mew one, but yeah, he looks really cool. He's got a little hole in his bum. And yeah, it's just a really nice one. I love the design. I love the colourings on the markings and stuff like that. It's just a really nice figure. So that's it for 151, but I do have 2 others, which is Mareep and Snubbull, which I believe came together. I don't think these were in 5-packs. I thought they were in 5-packs, but no, when I looked up a bit more information on these, they were both put in together. And yeah, that kind of makes sense. I think once we kind of got a Johto, they just kind of started like putting out, oh, well, this one was kind of like in the movie, and this one was one of the very first announced ones. So yeah, it makes sense that they'll put them together. It also kind of helps later on when they can just release Fluffy and Ampharos as a 2-pack. I remember, for some reason in my mind, I remember having Fluffy and Ampharos. Whether or not I did or just misremembering, I can't remember. But when I looked at Mareep, I was just like, oh yeah, I had all 3 of them. But maybe not. At this time, Pokemon was kind of getting to be kind of like, I was getting older, and I kind of, once these came out, I was just like, oh, I'm not as into Pokemon as I was. So I bought these 2 just because they look cool, and I think it was just like, oh, these are 2 new Pokemon that I've never seen before. And yeah, that's about it really. I just bought them, but I never bought anything else. I know these were the last ones, and I know at the time it was very much significantly a time period after buying a lot of the others. Maybe I bought the Doduo ones or something similar, but yeah, I just love them though. They just look so cool. Mareep especially just looks nice and fluffy and electrical zappy. It's just a really nice Pokemon release. The Tomy Monster Collection or MonColle line is absolutely fantastic. It's incredible that back in 1998, 1999, you could get quite impressive figures of some of your favourite Pokemon. Now, while some of them were harder to get than others, it's still really nice that you can get, say, for example, Doduo or Dodrio as a little figure. Farfetch'd, in this day and age, I would never expect to get a figure. and the quality of them is really nice. If I'm honest, I'm quite sad that I, well, have lost some of my original figures, and I thought I'd have a look on eBay and see if I could pick up some of the others.